Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be diving into a reaction from MMO Byte. This is the Blue Protocol and Throne and Liberty are sadly already failing. And this is a topic I think that's near and dear to me as somebody who has been following these games for a while, who has covered these games in various different capacities, and who has actually played both of these games. And as I wait for the global release, there's always that kind of looming question, especially around any games as a service game. One of the things that we tend to see more often than not is that a lot of games, especially MMOs, have a lot of hype behind them. And then once people go hands-on with it, it ends up kind of falling into kind of more of a seasonal style model. Now, you might not like that. You know, like overall, I think a lot of us consider ourselves MMO nomads, where we're just trying to find that next big thing, that next lifelong game, essentially, which is always kind of a curious discussion in and of itself. But without further ado, let me go ahead and like his video, and let's go ahead and jump into it. We can discuss it along the way as we usually do. If you guys enjoy these videos, hit that like button, subscribe for more videos, and comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this subject and what he has to say, and hopefully what we have to talk about in this video.
NCSoft Q4 2023. Guild Wars 2 is a bright spot for NCSoft.
Guild Wars 2 is great.
Throne and Liberty stumbles, which means it's up to Amazon to save the game. Bandai Namco reports year-over-year sales drop, admitting Blue Protocol JP significantly fell short, which means it's up to Amazon to save the game. And taking a look at the other games that Amazon own or operate, New World with 9,924 players in game right now with a 14,000.
So that again is one of the things that I'm gonna just jump in on. That does not represent like the active player base. That just represents that snapshot in time. You take the concurrent number, you multiply it by 7 to 11, and it's going to give you the range. You can also go look at the hours played and go from there. But also right now, this is a season of big games. So you see, like with on his chart, the line that jumps up and down. So the real important factor in all of these games is, do they continue to invest, add content, and more? Now, the best thing to do is that when you're feeling down in here, take a break, play something else. And then when content drops, come check it back out again. That is the way. That is the real truth about all of it.
669 player peak, and Lost Ark with 48,461 players online right now, and a 61,246 player peak. Maybe betting on Amazon was not the right choice. Now, I have been talking very positively about Blue Protocol ever since it was announced, I think all the way back in 2019, so 5 years ago. I've also been talking very highly of Project TL, which was what Throne and Liberty was before it rebranded into Throne and Liberty. Both games I was very excited for. I'm still kind of excited for Blue Protocol, given I did enjoy the Japanese beta test and the Japanese launch. I just felt like there wasn't really like an abundance of things to do. Guild Wars 2 has always done exceptionally well, I think, for NCSoft. I think the Lineage MMOs have always done moderately well. Ion has always, or at least for the last several years, has underperformed. Blade and Soul has underperformed. Throne and Liberty was supposed to be their next big MMO, the next big moneymaker for them. But according to Massively OP, who actually sourced the NCSoft IRN Ruli Web, Q4 NAEU sales grew by 15% quarter over quarter due to strong sales of Guild Wars 2, which I'm sure almost nobody ever thought they would hear. So that's a welcome tidbit. During the investor call, NCSoft was taken to task for masking those per game revenues as well as for revealing no revenue data for Throne and Liberty. For whatever reason, they have chosen to hide the revenue for Throne and Liberty. I'm pretty sure we can all guess why that is the case, which launched in Korea in the middle of the quarter. NCSoft told investors that Throne and Liberty, and this is the most important part of the entire investor call, the entirety of the revenue report, Throne and Liberty had underperformed, and that they are working on sorting out the game's rocky launch. However, it looks as if NCSoft is banking more on Amazon's global release to save the game. So
the money that I would wonder that is going to get infused into them, if that isn't necessarily like the wrong call, because like I can't recall an MMO that has launched that this isn't the story, that saying that they have underperformed or run into issues, etc. I think even if we were going to extrapolate this out beyond the MMORPG, let's talk about like Helldivers 2. Like, it's incredible, and it's going to be the exception rather than the rule, in which that people continue to go and try it out. And also, I think there's another aspect to that where you're talking about a game that already had like, some already game that existed out there. Throne of Liberty, I think, can bank off the lineage. Blue Protocol doesn't have that nostalgia, but it does tie into like anime nostalgia because of just its art direction alone. Now, I don't think it's necessarily wrong to say, or think that it's weird to say, that Amazon, could possibly quote unquote save the game, but this would also be a very telling aspect that if it doesn't get enough player interest, I do wonder what we will see from Amazon, and that will tell us kind of what their expectations are and where their line in the sand is. They continue to say that they're, all in on gaming, and I think New World shows that. A lot of people look at that number and it's like, all right, like that's who's currently playing this game. That number goes up, that number goes down. They release expansions, that number goes up. They add marketing, number goes up. There's a lot of factors that are all at play and a lot of things that are at work, especially as it relates to, like, the perfect MMO is the MMO that we know nothing about because it lives only in our heads. So, like, at the end of the day, like, I'm overall more and nothing else curious to see how it's received when they do start talking about it, and how does it, because we know there's no matter what, there's going to be a dip. I would not go out on a limb and say Throne of Liberty is going to be the exception rather than the rule. I think it's going to follow the rule, in which that you're going to see a big hype. The free-to-play model in and of itself will make the doors open wide for a lot of people to try out the game, driving up those numbers, getting those kind of headlines. And then the downside of those headlines is, well, when the numbers go down, then you have the same kind of thing. We've seen this with Power World, which that's the game that we constantly are playing here at the house. Great game. I don't really care about the numbers. The question is that will they continue to invest and support the game? And I think that would be my ultimate dream within the world of content creation.
Just want to point out here, Korean players who this game directly targets, first and foremost as a Korean MMO, hate the game. Nobody wants to play it. Why would we? I'm sorry. The game has been poorly received. The game has done poorly. They have openly admitted that it underperformed, and Amazon are going to publish this game in the hopes that we play it and we spend money on it, even though it has been proven to be a piece of trash. Now, I know there are some of you out there that like the game or that have been enjoying the game, but that doesn't change the fact that the overwhelming majority evidently do not feel that way. And with all the server merges that have been going on, it is clear that the active player base has declined by a substantial number. And when the developer themselves openly admit their game underperformed, there's no way you can defend them or the game at this point. But that's just Throne and Liberty. Let's take a look at Blue Protocol. Before we do, though, I want to take a moment here to thank our incredible patrons over on Patreon who allow for me to continue to do dedicated videos on MMOs like this every single week. You guys are phenomenal, and I cannot thank you all for the support. First and foremost, Video Games Chronicle, and a lot of actually news websites have reported this. Bandai Namco reveals that it recently canceled 5 games, saying it plans for stricter 96%. Quality control. This is after the publisher reported a 96% drop in year-on-year profits in its game division. A 96% drop. That is an astronomical number. I honestly don't think anyone can contest the fact that clearly they are in a bad state right now, and if Blue Protocol were a larger success than it has been, they probably wouldn't have suffered as severe a drop. Navigating on over to massively OP though, Bandai Namco has disclosed its fiscal year third quarter financial reports, and it looks like things are not going well for the developer and publisher, as its operating profit for its digital entertainment segment took an 8.9% hit to net sales compared to the same period last year, and a 96.5% drop in income. Man. According to a statement from the company, most of its profit drop is being attributed to the massive sales of Elden Ring. I think Elden Ring sold, what, like 20-something million copies?
Yeah,
23 million copies. Holy crap. From last year not being replicated this year, even as other titles in the Dragon Ball, One Piece, and Armored Core IPs did well. The income deficit is also causing Bandai to review its development processes, which has resulted in 5 in-development titles being cancelled according to a follow-up Q&A session with investors, chalking the canceled development up to a loss on disposal. The fiscal report has also caused Bandai Namco to make some financial projection revisions. Naturally, this makes us wonder what is happening with Bandai Namco's Anime-mmpg Blue Protocol. A related quarterly presentation from the Japanese site does make reference to the game, which said, and this is once again the most important part of the entire financial report, the new online game significantly fell short of plan, according to a fan translation on Reddit. Significantly fell short. Underperformed, significantly fell short. Both games are doing terribly. These are 2 highly anticipated upcoming MMOs. One from NCSoft, who has a history with actually pushing out some decent quality games. Lineage and Lineage 2, Blade and Soul, Guild Wars 2, Ion before it became shit. Bandai Namco with, God, I don't even, like, there are dozens of different intellectual properties. The Tales of games, Scarlet Nexus, God Eater. They published Elden Ring. Like, they have a lot of very high quality games as well. But both their MMOs are underperforming, or in the case of Blue Protocol, significantly underperforming. However, the game is still getting updated in Japan, and its executive producer is trying to project a rosy 2024 as he talked up the game's cross-platform release to Xbox and PS5 in December, promised further adjustments based on player feedback, and looked ahead to the MMO's first anniversary in the country. Meanwhile, the Western release window hasn't yet shifted from Amazon's plan for sometime in 2024 this year. Now, I will give them credit here. They are making a lot of updates. They are taking a lot of player feedback and making, I think personally, sufficient alterations to the game to...
I want to jump in on that because one of the things that has been very unique about the MMOs as it exists is that Lost Ark was locked away for 3 years and they ran into a ton of problems. Now, whether you like Lost Ark or not, that's another story, but Lost Ark has done numbers, continues to do numbers, and regardless of whether you want to call that game a success or not, like I think the math and the science checks it out. Like, it is literally a huge success. But it's a success because it was locked away. They got to work on a lot of these issues, and that's actually one of the things that have been positive on both of these games is that let them come out, let them figure out all the issues and the problems, what they like, what they don't, what they need to change, and then bring that into the global release because you're going to get that marketing push. You're going to have obviously a bigger player base than just one country.
To improve it, I think this is another case of PSO2. And that is that the game released with not enough content to really retain player interest long term. And they're playing catch up after releasing the game. What this means is that players hit end game and complete everything in a minimal amount of time, and then they just leave and never come back.
The never come back is absolutely like subjective, and like if this was the case, I'd be like, objection. Like, how do you know that? That is player retention, the returning rate. Like, you know, how often do people take a break and how long do they take that break and when do they come back? The way you get those players back, like, you're going to get some players are going to touch it and they'll never come back. I don't even count those into this equation. For the vast majority of people who like these kind of genres, yeah, like what brings them back is a big update, a big expansion, a big marketing push. It does, I would say it costs more in that regards, and it's better to launch the game when it's like ready. But this is also the MMORPG that we have. Like, there's never going to be enough content. Like, the way that MMO players consume content is like what I've heard described as a massive locust, where they just like swarm, consume it all, and then they were waiting for the next thing. And so it's this kind of weird, die something. A diatribe. I don't know if that's even the right word. Well, you can let me know.
As was the case with PSO2. Now, this does bode poorly for global, both games, actually, but at least with regards to Blue Protocol, it was confirmed we'll be getting a lot of the content that Japan has when the game officially launches in English. So we might not necessarily have as big of a problem in terms of the rate at which we consume the content at, because there might be a lot more of it to ultimately consume. It is definitely a little bit foreboding. seeing both games severely underperform to this magnitude. And honestly,
that's expected.
After seeing them both underperform, after seeing the absolute silence from Amazon as well, I do not think either game is necessarily going to do that well. Now, I really hope they do. I truly do, because every time an MMO dies, that's one less game I get to cover for my channel. Thus, the more games that die, the less videos I can push out. I don't want any MMO to fail. I would love something new, innovative, and fun to play. And I mean, at the end of the day, neither of these games might be the game that I'm after. Ashes probably won't. The Riot MMO might not be. ArcAge 2, who knows? All we do know is, in each game's respective country of origin, they have done very poorly, and we still don't have a projected release date for global. Now, if you're not interested in either of these games, absolutely no problem. I got
Well, to kind of put my thoughts like ideally into a nice little package for everybody who's still here, thank you so much for being here, by the way. Sign off in the comments with the secret shout out, which I'm going to say MMO buy. You know, that would be the term. Feel free to use that, and that is how you rep that you made it all the way to the end of this video. I think overall, like, when I for whatever reason, seeing this report isn't surprising. That is just kind of how these things go, and it's always going to be a question of, does the studio listen, communicate, and invest and make content? You'll never make enough content to satisfy your most diehard players, but what you do is you continue to push that ball forward every single week, every month. And that's one of the things that is unique about Blue Protocol, is they have a checkpoint every month. They have the developer update, they have the patch, and then, you know, over the course of 4 months, they have like an overall like piece of content. So you're having that, you know, that at least a quarter, you know, not a quarter, a third of the year touch point. Throne of Liberty, I think, was always interesting, namely because the best thing it had going for it was its mystery. Like, what kind of game is this? It's locked away. It's mysterious. It could be anything. It could be the MMO to end all MMOs, which, like, I don't think ever truly will exist. I do think the business model is changing, and that's going to give these games different kinds of life. And ultimately, maybe they find an audience, a community, something to kind of rally around the game and root for its success, which is what you want. You get like me, who's like, I think New World is incredible, and I'm very excited for its future. And I do recognize that, yeah, like, it would be really great if it had more content, and there's going to be, you know, ways that I'm going to try to advocate for that content. But at the end of the day, it's really up to them. And I'm not so concerned about the silence, because when it's all said and done, if they are like, hey, here's these touch points that we need to have it for global, here's the changes that we want for global, here's the, you know, like the monetization and more for the global version, like, get it right. Like, you know, honestly, as long, I really hope they hit this year, because as they go into 2025, that's just going to be a little bit strange, because that's, you know, I don't want to wait another year personally, but we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you want to get involved in the community, top link in the description gets you over to the Discord, the podcast, and all the other content that I make here on the internet. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for your time. Hopefully you have a wonderful day. Hopefully I'll see you next time. But until then, take care.